Welcome all to DeFi Crypto and Airdrops, where we dive into decentralized finance, airdrop, low cap gems, and passive income strategies. How's it going, Jeff?
Doing great, doing great. Enjoying this beautiful weather. Kind of jealous of the views you got, but
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, you must be doing pretty nice up there and enjoying that beautiful nature.
Actually, yeah, no, I'll share that real quick. Let's
Mm.
see. Let's bring that up. So, yeah, let me see
I
if
can
I can.
imagine how fresh that air smells compared to this.
No, yeah, just me and my lady. We went and hiked around Yellowstone and the Grand Tetons and all that. And I mean, still, as you can see, a ton of snow. So we went to go up to hike up to a waterfall, and there was still like 3 or 4 feet of snow. So we ended up going around a lake, and yeah, there was still a ton of snow. So we were slipping and sliding and falling, and doing all kinds of craziness. But yeah, it was definitely a good time.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, make sure you guys get out and touch some grass a little bit. But
Or
thank
some
you all
snow.
for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, hey, let's go ahead and jump into because I know you have a lot to talk about with Soul Network, that new DeFi play you found. So
Hmm.
let's show our socials real quick, and
Yeah,
I'll give a couple of quick
there we
hits
go.
on as far as news, and then we'll move right into Soul Network.
You can see my screen now. Am I
I
good?
can.
Nice. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Saturday. All you DGens out there. If you're just new to us, you can follow us at DeFi Crypto Airdrop on YouTube. We go live Monday and Saturday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, with a few sprinkled in during the week. Um, and you can check out our brother channels. We got Discover Crypto, Blockchain Basement, BitLab, um, my channel, Blockchain Report, and Veterans channel, Life, Liberty, and Liquidity, where he
All
goes
right.
live Sunday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And that's a lot of fun conversations there, other than outside of crypto. But they did a good interview last week with TJ Shed from Discover Crypto, so
We
that
did.
was a great bridge between TradFi and decentralized finance and Bitcoin, and it was a great conversation. So yeah, check that out. You can catch Vet at Veteran4Crypto on Twitter, and we stream here on both of our pages, me at the Blockchain Report, the BCR 142, and make sure that if you ever see messages from us, we won't necessarily DM you. So make sure that you are following the right accounts, Veteran for Crypto and the BCR 142. So just double check, and if somebody's asking you for money or investing for you, it's a scam. We won't ask you for money. So just be safe out there. And yeah,
Yeah,
there we
no,
go.
definitely, as always, be careful with your crypto because there's plenty of people and it's starting to heat up. I mean, I've started to get emails and people messaging me on social media and asking me how my crypto investing's going and all that jazz, trying to build rapport to get me to connect a wallet to something, I'm sure.
Well,
So,
and you know what else is interesting with that? The LinkedIn scams. Now, I know a lot of Web3 developers are getting hit up in LinkedIn for software development roles, and these people will set up these elaborate interviews and actually have the interview with the person
really?
and go through the whole process. And while you're in the Zoom call or whatever, they'll
Oh,
fucking,
no,
yeah.
what's his name? Really big YouTuber. It happened to him. The British dude. Oh, younger guy. I forget his name, but he got hit with that.
Oh,
He did an interview and he got taken for a couple hundred grand.
shit.
It was
Yeah. So now if I get hit up for recruiters, by recruiters for just engineering jobs, not in Web3 at all, but they'll send me a link for like Calendly where you can pick a time to interview with them, and I don't even click that. I'm like, I don't want to fucking touch anything. So PDF, send me a PDF of the job overview, and I'm
Going
like,
to a,
just put it
it's like going
in.
to a strip club and going to the bathroom and like what needing to flush the toilet or something. You're like using your foot.
Yep, yep. Hell no. Like you send me the job description in text in this message, not a PDF. I don't want a link. I don't want shit.
Yeah, yeah.
So you really got to be careful now, because once your computer's infected, you got to pretty much get a new one.
Well, you told me that dude that whatever virus that he got, it was embedded in his processor. So like,
Hmm.
I mean, there was like no way to get it out. So yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
all right. Well, let's go ahead and jump right into the news. One of my little favorite projects, as you can see on the screen, is Casper Network. So really, I think it's a really cool project. They've definitely had their rough patches. I've done some full videos of this on my own before we started this channel. Especially when they went through where the old CEO and Casper Labs left and took Prove AI, which is what they were building out for validating data for IBM, IBM's AI. And so they left Casper, went and built on Hedera because Hedera gave them a grant, and they're now building on Hedera. And it basically looked like that things were pretty much done for Casper. And this guy stepped up, Michael Stewart, who was the CTO, and he's now the president. And he took up the ball and ran with it, and has been doing an amazing job to an extent to where now they're about to launch their major upgrade that is actually going live. As you can see here, over 67% of the Casper Network staking weight has accepted the Casper 2.0 upgrade. So basically, that validates that they're going to go live with 2.0. Everybody signed off on it, and a bunch of
Hell
exchanges
yeah.
have updated to 2.0 as well. So it looks like we might see, and I don't know if those of you out there listening remember, but about a week ago, Casper pumped like 125%. It retraced, but there was a huge pump, and potentially that could be for an exchange listing. And with this upgrade that's about to go live, to me, it feels like there's some big things starting to happen. Not saying go and ape into this or FOMO into this, but it might be something worth taking a look at and earning a little bag.
Hmm.
Me myself, I've been stacking this for years, and I actually have mine delegated on a delegator, and I've been earning about 16% APR for it. And this is before I got into DeFi. It was kind of my first step into earning with crypto. So really, really cool project. It's very different than a lot of the projects out there. They're modular, as far as being able to build out for a customer and be able to upgrade in a modular fashion to where you don't have to bring down, the whole network to do an upgrade. You can, basically pick parts out of it and upgrade, just parts of it at a time. So there's a lot of really cool stuff about it. But yeah, go ahead and do your own research on it, and if it looks interesting to you, it might be worth putting a little bit of money into, because again, they're about to launch on Wise. They're about to launch DeFi as well, which I'm very excited for
That's
because
what it was. Okay.
yeah, I would love to earn more than 16%. So I'm from a DeFi perspective. I know that sounds greedy as
Ooh,
shit.
you greedy little
Yeah, yeah, right,
bastard.
right. No, it's just
No, while it's here, man, fuck, we take advantage of it.
right. No, I mean, I'm earning 40% on my arrow. Just and we'll get into here after we're done talking about Soul. I want to get into. I keep running into people that are confused about impermanent loss and divergence loss, and
Hmm.
and it's kind of that specter of that they're going to lose all their money from it. And so I'm going to cover that at the end because I want to make sure I give you ample time, to cover Soul because there's airdrop potential. It's looks like a potentially really good DeFi play.
Hmm.
So I definitely want to hear about it because I even when you told me about it before we went live, I was actually trying to set up my wallet and do all the steps to try to do the airdrop, and it was running into some problem. I kind of want to see what you have to say to see if I can work it out. But
Hmm.
with that, I'm actually going to just go ahead and cut it off there and turn it over to you because like I said, I want to make sure you have plenty of time.
Oh yeah, let's do this. I was looking at the Casper chart. That's nice. A nice solid kind of support back at the retrace.
You can go ahead and put your screen up. I took mine down.
Let me. Oh yeah, there we go.
Here, I'm going to go into while you're doing that. I'm going to go into the chat real quick. Oh,
Can you see
Sack
my screen
Nasty's
or is
here.
it? Oh,
We got Jay, we got Sack Nasty, we got Black Ice, Ellie. Who else we got? DCA and Prey. Sup, losers. We got the bear in here trying to throw shade. Um, Happy Saturday. Smash, yeah,
uh,
smash the like button, the share
yeah.
button. Definitely
I need to
follow.
smash that like. Fuck, what am I doing?
Let's see. Oh, I know, right? DCA and Prey. Yeah, DCA and Prey. I actually have quite a few, like really, really nice pictures of some waterfalls and stuff like that. That's why you need to
Shit.
separate computer from crypto.
Hmm.
Absolutely. All right, cool.
Yeah, and
So,
phones too. I need to get a separate phone for. I don't do a lot of crypto stuff on my phone, but I I try not to
well,
keep
and
like a lot
and
of
things like
bullshit.
TikTok. I mean, it's
Yeah,
having TikTok on your phone and doing crypto is not a good idea.
yeah, no. But yeah, so Soul Labs, this project, I guess, has been building for a couple years and in basically silence. And they just launched their testnet. And it's a DeFi protocol where you can borrow or you can supply anywhere and borrow anywhere. So imagine if you want the security and basically the legacy features of Ethereum network, right? You're a big player, you don't care about the gas fees. You just want your funds safe, and you can supply on Ethereum and borrow on any other network. So you don't have to worry about the gas fees and stuff.
So it looks like it's Ethereum, Polygon, Base, Arbitrum, Optimism, and Avalanche right now,
Avalanche. Yeah.
and it looks to be a DeFi aggregator.
Yeah. So
Oh, and
this,
actually, it's also with Aave, Compound, and Venus as far as protocols.
yeah, this is what the website looks like. And it's very, just beware, it's very graphic intensive. So it might slow your computer down. Cause when I record the videos for this, especially, I have to turn my camera off because it's just so laggy. Um, but I'm gonna go ahead and jump on in here and we'll kind of explore this. But yeah, so this is what you were having an issue with, right?
Yeah, I'd go to do that, and then the MetaMask wouldn't pop up for me to verify in my wallet.
Okay, yeah, my Rabby wallet popped up. Um,
I'll just have to use
it
it,
might
try to
be
use a
Meta,
different wallet.
yeah, it might be MetaMask because it's just I hate how some of the websites it doesn't automatically switch with the network. Yeah, MetaMask is just rough.
Let's see.
So they did announce they have raised 4 million in funding in private round from X Ventures, TPC Ventures, RV Inc. I don't know what that is. Runtime
Oh,
verification.
Ink is from Kraken, the exchange. That's their.
No, RV Inc. Runtime verification Inc.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant Ink, the token.
No, and then alongside angel investors from Coinbase, Layer Zero, Flowdesk, and Pi Squared. So they've and they use Layer Zero as a primary
The cross chain
messaging
interoperability.
network.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they kind of break down, the problem with DeFi experience today. Users must constantly track the best rates across protocols. Bridging assets adds friction, costs, and security risks. I mean, you know all about but trying to get your funds across and collateral is fragmented. So there's no unified
Yes.
borrowing power. And Yeah, all kinds of stuff. So they want to bring
So
the first
so
cross chain and cross protocol lending platform.
So basically, what all this means to me so far is that this is going to allow, and because it's an aggregator, just like VFAT, that it's going to allow you to inject liquidity across multiple platforms. So, say that that you want to, have a one-stop shop that you can, deal with Aave, Compound, and Venus all in one place.
Hmm.
Using Ethereum, Polygon, Base, Arbitrum, Optimism, and Avalanche. All those chains to take part in DeFi for all the different pools. As far as borrowing and lending pools, then this will be a one-stop shop that you can go to. So
Hmm.
those of you that are maybe new to the channel, I'm always showing a platform called VFAT, and it's basically it allows me to use Aerodrome, the Sonic network, so so like Silo and Shadow. It allows me
Hmm.
to use Uniswap.
BNB,
There's a
right?
bunch of different
Pancake
ones it
swap, I
allows me to
think.
do, but all from one place with added functionality. So
Hmm.
just to kind of break it down for y'all, that's basically what we're talking about right now. Is this is going to be a borrowing and lending DeFi aggregator.
Yeah, and
Sorry, I
you
just wanted to
can't
break
do
it down.
Ethereum. You can't do Ethereum on VFAT, right? They don't have.
Yeah, you can do Ethereum.
Oh, do they? Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So,
I just wanted
like I
to make
said,
sure.
I just wanted to break it down a little more simply because we start a lot of these projects use some terminology that aren't very user friendly.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And like with VFAT, you'll have an asset on the base network or DeFi pool on the base network, but you can't access that from any other network besides the base network. So this will essentially allow you to access your funds from other networks without restrictions.
Mm.
And it looks like they're using fallback systems like Wormhole, Axelar, and CCIP from Chainlink to ensure uninterrupted performance. So they got Chainlink integrations, and yeah, the protocols that they interact with, Aave, Compound, Venus. And so I guess they're doing a fair public round for their token on May 16th. So to support this, let's see. If you're interested in this, I don't know. Oh, app.sol.io. Yeah, you can read through this. I haven't looked at it, so I'm not planning on jumping in this fair public round. I don't normally do that anyway. Um,
Any specific reason, or is
it,
it just
they just
sketchy,
haven't
or
really. No, I'm. It's not a play that I'm interested in. I've seen people do well with investing early like that, but I would just much rather do the test net. And
and
now,
so is it like you're buying the token, like the actual token early?
yeah, like I guess you're like an early investor
It's like an
in it.
angel investor or something like that.
Yeah, and you can the ICO, I guess. So buy SO token, and I think there's a KYC and stuff along with this.
There is. I actually saw
Yeah,
that going
yeah,
through trying to do my, sign up for the airdrop. It had the steps, and one of them was you have to KYC.
yeah. 12 days that they. So public sale, yeah, and with Shard, like the project Shardium, is kind of funny, but I did their test net for over a year, and when they ended right before their mainnet launch, they were like, "Oh, if you participate in the test net, you can qualify to invest in our early or our pre-launch," and that was the incentive. Like we could invest at a lower price in their pre-token launch, and people were like, "Fuck you guys," It's
Yeah.
so you put in the work and use the test net and stuff, and then they're still like, "Oh, even though we raised all this money, we still want you to invest in our token before. So people just, yeah, it was,
Bailed on
sometimes
it.
you get that. Yeah. So I hope that it's not this, but this is what the protocol looks like. These are my supplied positions. Can you see that very well? I don't know if, or is it hard to,
Yeah, no, I mean we can see it.
okay.
I
Yeah.
mean, it is kind of small, but so it looks like it has that health meter up there. Is that what that is? That 92.62%
Yeah. This is the,
from like the
what,
the borrowing and lending,
yeah,
like your health
supply
meter.
balance, borrow limit. And yeah, it doesn't say the supply meter, right? I wish current APY.
Hmm.
I wish they wouldn't like have. That's one thing I don't like about these sites is there's too much sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Sometimes less is more. Where there's certain data that you just need. But go ahead and keep
And it
driving on. I was just
and it
curious if
doesn't.
that's what that was.
No, and that's another thing. If there's not a description of it, you can just guess. I mean, that's what
Like
it
I
would
said,
seem
that
like.
that's what I guessed. Was just I was like, hey, it looks like a health meter to where if you're over leveraged, it's gonna show you in the red,
Hmm.
and as you pay it down, pay down the loan and get to where your loan to value is, then you're gonna
Yeah, more
start
in the
moving down
green.
towards the green.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go to my up here at the top bar when you sign in with your wallet. Yeah, and see if you can use a different wallet, maybe even Zerion. Zerion's pretty good.
Like I said,
If you
yeah,
don't want to use,
I'll mess with it because I need to start doing these airdrops that we're always covering. I'm so involved in DeFi that I haven't been doing any airdrop stuff.
yeah, and this is a little dashboard. They got a season one going on where you collect these seeds by completing these quests. And now the thing with this, you do need to, when you sign up, they have this quest one that become part of the Soul Protocol community, and you have to complete all of these in order to unlock the next quest. And one of these is joining the Telegram community. So you do need to have a Telegram, but you can leave once this is verified. Like that, that's what I usually do with Discords and Telegram groups. Is once I join them for the social task, that I complete that, and if I don't want to stay in that group, then I'll just leave. So, but yeah, that's one thing that I know is kind of a pain is the Telegram, because when I use multiple wallets to do the airdrop stuff, I don't have a second Telegram, so I can't do this one on my backup wallet. So um, I need to work on that. But just a tip when you're completing these. And if you're interested in creating content on any of these projects, like I said in the video or last week with Initia, just talking about stuff on social media, on Twitter, sharing content. If you want to write a thread on one of these projects, they're starting to get more, give more incentives to people talking about these projects. And here
I've
you
been
can
seeing
see
that.
it.
I've been seeing that a lot on
Hmm.
different projects. Like I've been doing that with DAG. Every once in a while, and
Paka.
I'll only do it if there's like real news. But the more you post about it, then you can get earn tokens from the DAG network, Constellation DAG
Yeah. How
network.
much have you earned from that so far?
I've actually most of what I've earned is just in this one token called Door. I think we kind of talked about it a little bit, where it
Hmm.
tracks movement around retail spaces, like foot traffic. And then I earned a little bit of PACA, for the airdrop that's coming for a swap, the DeFi platform that's about to launch on Constellation Network. But
Yeah, I've been really um, eager to get into Paka Swap when they launch. I'm like,
Yeah, no,
are
once
you guys
they,
coming?
yeah, I'd love to get in on that action myself. I'm just waiting for it to happen. All
Um,
right, so where
so
were we?
yeah, so these quests, right? Once you get onboarded, they have different like lend lend assets on Ethereum and Avalanche networks,
Mhm.
and they have these testnet tokens that you can claim right here. So you can claim the tokens that to use, and everything is right here. They'll go step by step. Supply any of the available assets on Avalanche, and then on Ethereum. And this is all testnet, so it's free. You don't have to have any of your own. It's not the actual Ethereum network. It's Ethereum. They call it Sepalia. It's a testnet, and Avalanche Fuji. So you'll go through some of these, and I have a couple video guides on this already on Quest 2, 3, and 4. And then I got 5 to work on. But here on the dashboard, you got your supply and borrow.
Mhm.
This is what I have supplied already, but we'll go here. And these are all the available assets: Avalanche, Ethereum, USDC, and the chain that it's on. So this is on Avalanche, this is on Ethereum, this is on Arbitrum, and the protocols that they're on, like Aave and was that Venus, the APY, collateral factor, and your wallet balance. So basic stuff. And it does take a little time to populate over here on the right if you want to select an asset to deposit, like how it's not really loading for me.
Well,
So
you said
that's
that
why.
it's pretty intensive on your processor and graphics
There
card,
you go.
so
Yeah. Yeah, less is more with some of these things, you know.
it looks cool when you have all this sexiness, but yeah, unless somebody has a really high end laptop, that's gonna bog it down.
And for me, this is a little, I don't know what this is or why they did this, but normally when you add an asset like on Aave, you can click add as collateral or it does it automatically. But
Mm.
here they have two separate collateral buttons, and I haven't really figured out why that is the case.
Hmm.
So I don't know if this is a different like feature or what, but this is where you basically just supply and withdraw your
That
asset.
supply the testnet tokens.
Yeah, the testnet token. So I'll put a little bit
So
of
basically,
Aave in there.
when you're doing this, you're lending your
Mm-hmm.
fake, your fake tokens for the test net, and then those steps that you were talking about earlier that you were going through, where it tells you, okay, lend, okay, now you need to borrow, okay, now you need to
Yep.
bridge, all these different things that you need to do and again, a lot of these airdrops are so they can test out at scale, as many
Mm-hmm.
people as possible, stress test their system. So that's why they have as many people as possible coming in here and bogging down their system so that they can say if it doesn't work or if there's an error, if there's a bug, then they can fix it before they go live. Because with DeFi,
Yeah.
you can't be launching something that has has bugs with real money because it's
Mm-mm.
that's going to cause a whole shit ton of problems. So anyway,
Well,
you were saying.
especially man, if prices is fluctuating and
Mm,
like fast, and you want to
yeah,
get out and or you need to rebalance or something, whatever insert
absolutely.
scenario here, you can't have that lag, especially with this. Like, holy shit, man! I don't know what kind of computers they're using to design all this, but man, you guys got to get something that will allow users to, and people have been complaining about the speed or the lagginess of the website. So I've been in the Discord and they're taking notes and um but
But you were
yeah,
you were going
testing.
you were going through how to deposit. how to lend and deposit.
Yeah, and here you're lending USDT on the Ethereum network on Aave, and you're getting
Hmm.
77% APY.
All right.
So you can supply that, and I'll just click the supply and collateral all in one. Oh, supply cap is exceeded.
All right. So you gotta lower it. There you go.
Huh.
Oh,
Okay.
maybe they capped you.
Oh.
You're already lending too much.
No, I don't. Damn. Yeah, but it. Oh, maybe the supply cap of this pool, because some
Oh
of the
yeah, yeah,
pool. Yeah.
maybe yeah. Okay, all right, yeah,
Let's
that makes
see.
sense. We'll try a different asset.
Yeah, let's see USDC on the OP. Let me da-na-na-na-na.
Hey, Crypto G, I never saw a question from you, so if you want to re-ask the question, we're more than happy to answer it.
Mm-hmm.
It never popped up, so feel free.
Oh, come on. Let's. I'm a clicking. It's not. Yeah. Oh, come on.
Yeah,
Low.
they definitely need to work on this.
Yeah, because you can't be doing all that if I mean, you would think 2 years. It looks. I mean, it looks clean. It looks good, but
Oh no, I mean yeah, and what they're doing, as far as being a borrow and lending DeFi aggregator, I mean that's it's just like VFAT, but VFAT does liquidity pools. It does the the full range and the ranged liquidity pools. It doesn't do a ton of lending.
yeah,
Actually, it
yeah,
doesn't do
and I
any.
think they're gonna expand to more networks and stuff, and I think even Solana they have plans.
Yeah, because VFAT doesn't do any lending. There's a tab for it, but it just gives you some analytics on what like basically how many borrows like in BTC and RAT BTC and USDC, and it just kind of gives you some analytics, but it doesn't let you actually borrow and lend on VFAT. So yeah, this would be really nice to have in
Okay.
conjunction with VFAT to do
Oh yeah.
both borrow and lending and liquidity pools.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it looks like this one's not capped,
All
so
right, perfect. Moving on.
we are waiting for this transaction to pop up. There we go. Yeah, I sat here when I was making my video guide for this.
Yeah.
I would just it was like 2 or 3 minutes. I would have to wait for the fucking transaction to pop up.
Well,
It's
and
like, oh,
sometimes that can happen, when you're actually, doing the wallet transactions and stuff like on Uniswap even. Whenever I'm, doing my Plume pools or when I was doing that Bitcoin one, it sometimes you hit to finalize it and you can wait like 30 seconds to a minute, and it just sits there and thinks about it.
oh, later, black eyes.
Later, back guys.
And there we go. We have our transaction here on the blockchain. Very cool. If you guys want to nerd out on this, it's a lot of fun stuff. Man, I did so not so in 2 weeks, I think, or 3 weeks. It'll be the 3 year anniversary of my channel. But early on, like I just covered all kinds of shit. And I did a 3 or 4 part series on Etherscan. Just like for like a 30, 45 minute video on like 3 parts on Etherscan, just going through all the different like transactions and how to find like how to navigate it. It was like really nerdy stuff. But it's really cool the things that you can do on there. You can even mint NFTs and transfer tokens from the blockchain explorer.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. Well,
interesting.
it's
But
some
yeah.
other stuff about. Sol is it looks like their token utility. They're going to have staking rewards
Yeah, their
with
governance right
various
here.
functionalities. It's going to be a governance token, so you can
Mm-hmm.
participate in the decision making processes. That's probably going to be part of the staking. Is however many tokens that you have as your voting power, basically. Um,
I don't
of
have
course,
any available on this vote. Here's the governance. So you can vote on this proposal right now, onboard Solana chain and Camino lending protocol to Sol. But I missed the snapshot because they take a snapshot of, which is a picture of the blockchain at a specific point.
hmm
So whatever block,
so basically, it's like what
yeah.
they're about to do with Constellation Network
Hmm.
with the Stargazer wallet. So basically, whenever they do the swap airdrop, they'll do a snapshot and however many DAG tokens, LCX tokens, and packet tokens you have, it will basically record that in a snapshot, and then depending on how many you have of each is how many swap tokens that you're going to get. So that's what a
Hmm.
snapshot is. I need to check on make sure I claimed mine today.
Yeah, and I don't have any staked tokens. And here's the gauges and emissions
All right, I got another hour.
page. Yeah, and this is where you go to vote on the rewards that go to the distribution of rewards
Okay, so
to
it's like
whatever.
Aerodrome, with
Yeah,
where if you have VE Arrow, like if you have a lock and you have VE Arrow, you can either manually vote for whichever pool that you think the reward should go to, or you can put it in a relay. Like I was telling Ellie the other day, you can put it in a relay, and they will vote for you so that you can get your weekly compounding yield. Because if you don't vote,
yeah.
then you don't get your portion of the feeds that were generated during that epoch, which is a week long, ending on Wednesday evenings. So
Wednesday to
yeah,
Wednesday.
so yeah,
Trying
I
to.
mean, it's really important that you know the ins and outs of these projects. Especially if you start diving into them, and that's why I really haven't gotten too spread out when it comes to a lot of the protocols that I use personally. Just
Hmm.
because there's so many nuances to each of these that I want to make sure that I'm as much of a subject matter expert on each of them before I talk to them, talk to the audience here about them, because I don't want to give bad information because we're basically telling people about ways to potentially earn money, and so I definitely don't want to give you bad advice.
Yeah, going to a protocol that's shady and ends up getting rugged or will rug you. I'm trying to find out where I can claim because I want to do this governance thing, but I can't figure out how to claim any SO tokens for. Oh, this is laggy. Yeah, that's really about it on the Sol. If you want to participate in the test net, check out the videos I have on it on my page. I did like 3 in the past week and a half. So just search Sol and you should find it.
All right.
A lot of good
Well,
DeFi stuff, man, coming. A lot of good
well,
DeFi stuff.
let me do this real quick. I'll share my screen and show what I got going on. Let's see. Let me
Oh, and if
pull up.
if y'all haven't checked out the Plume USDC pool, well, oh,
Oh, yeah, no.
I've been
If you
earning
want, go
pretty
ahead and go
nice.
ahead and tell them about your experience so far. Because I mean, I've told people about mine, and I know Taylor's loving it. He has quite a bit of money in it, earning. But I mean, what's been your experience so far with Uniswap with the Plume USDC pools?
Well, I rebalanced. I added another $100. I just have like $330 in that pool, but just a week ago, in 7 days, I've got 52 Plume and 9 USDC. So almost $20 in a week off 330.
That's
So,
pretty damn
uh,
good.
I mean, under 7% was it, right? So,
Something like that. So I mean, you're tracking to be around 28% a month.
and
So if you had $1,000, you'd be earning $280 a month.
yeah. And
What's
my
your range like?
range,
Yeah, what's your
or I'll
range like?
actually, I'll actually pull up, I'll actually reshare.
Because yeah, I mean that's of course the important thing because and Boom has actually had a little bit of volatility recently. For a minute there, it got up. I actually closed out my narrow range because I was going to be going on this trip and put it in my wide
Mm,
range. But
yeah, right
no,
here.
you picked a nice
13,
range.
7, and 20. It was right there. And so, yeah. And it got close to the top. I didn't want to rebalance because I see how Plume
Hmm.
trends. And, it's just man, it's so nice that you can just sit here. And I mean, look, I put it in the 26th right here.
Hmm.
Yeah. So basically in a week, it's the same price.
Yeah, yeah,
So
no,
up
and somebody that was hodling Plume might be like, "This sucks." It's like the price never moves. But for DeFi, it's a
hmm
thing of beauty because I mean, you're earning huge yields. I mean, there's sometimes where I'm earning 200-300%. There's sometimes where it's single
hmm
digits. Like if it's a weekend and there's not a whole lot of volume and all of that. But for the most part, I'd say I'm probably averaging around 100% APR. And because I've like, what is it? Let me look and see what mine has done. So I actually, before I left on this trip, so what, 2 days ago, I have about $2,700 in one of mine, and I've earned about $27. So in 2 days, I've earned
Damn.
about what 1%? Is that right?
hmm
Yeah. So I've earned like 1% in 2 days. So I'm earning like half a percent a day, but every 2 days, so 15 times 2, 30. So I'm tracking to make 30% and
Nice.
this month of return on investment. And my range is huge. I'm 15 cents to 25 cents. So I have a
Oh
huge range.
shit.
And because I
Yeah.
didn't want to worry about it, when I'm hiking around, hiking around up here and stuff like that, and don't have a cell signal, I don't want to have to be worried about, oh shit, am I out of range? Am I freaking, all that stuff that you worry about. And my other one is a full range position, so if it goes to zero or if it goes to $10 a token, I don't care. I'm
hmm
always earning on that one. So, that's why I've been pushing so hard. And I actually did an episode, I believe it was the day before yesterday, where I was talking about the importance of getting in the right pools for where we're at in this market, because you don't want to be in too narrow of ranges if you're not going to be able to keep a close eye on the markets. Because say Plume starts pumping and it goes out the top of the range. Um, Actually, you know what? Go ahead and give
Well,
me the
and I was
screen.
going to ask you real quick. So you have the bottom range closer than the top range. Do you do that because, like you said, if since you're not around, if it went out the top, you would have to rebalance right away to get to stay in the rewards. But if it dipped out the bottom, you wouldn't mind just holding that, right? So
Well, not
you
not
don't
just
care if
stay
it's
in
a
the
little bit.
rewards, not just to stay in the rewards, because if you got the top, you're in this case, you're all in on USDC, so you're not getting price
True.
appreciation anymore
Yeah.
either. You're not getting yield or price appreciation if it goes out the
hmm
top. Now, if it goes out the bottom, I'm all in on Plume, and I'm cool because I believe in Plume as an asset. I'm not going to freak out about it because I personally feel that it would come back up. So, I don't care
Mm.
if it goes out the bottom, other than I'm not earning yield. But, with where we're at in the market and the potential alt season that's coming, when all of these alts start moving, you want to make sure that you're either in full range positions, you're in lending, because both of those, no matter what the price does, you're going to be earning yield.
Yeah.
And in here, actually, yeah, let me bring up my screen real quick because I know a lot of people out there are visual, and I want to make sure I.
Yeah, and that's true. If you're more in Plume versus USDC at the bottom of the range, if it dips out, you're not going to have much of a loss. I mean, you wouldn't lock it in anyway, but it wouldn't, like you said, the price appreciation or price depreciation would be much smaller having the bottom of the range closer to your position. And then if it pumps, you do get the price appreciation and not have to worry about rebalancing once it pokes out.
Let's see. All right, here's what I'm looking for. Let me grab this address real quick.
Sound like a whiny kitty out there.
Let's see. Yeah, my internet's running slow too. All right, let me close some of this out. Do. All right, we want to keep that open. We can close that.
What else? Yeah, Arrow had a nice pump this week too.
Yeah, it did. All right, here we go. It was just strolling with that one pool. What in the hell? All right, well, Deck Screener isn't wanting to cooperate, so we're going to do this. We'll use this instead. All right, so if you have Arrow and USDC, so I'm going to get into a little bit of divergence loss and impermanent loss because it seems like I keep running into people in the chat, and I'll do this at the same time as I'll mix in what we're just talking about with going out of the top of the range and the bottom of the range. So I keep running into people in the chat that say that they want to get into DeFi, but they're scared of impermanent loss and divergence loss. And I'm not making fun of you for that because that's what kept me out for so long is I kept hearing about this specter of impermanent loss and you're going to lose all your money and, yada, yada, yada. So in the simplest terms that I can put it, this is what impermanent loss and divergence loss are basically the same thing. I've actually started my own definition of each of them because I feel that it's necessary to have different definitions for what I'm about to explain. So impermanent loss, I associate so that I can wrap my head around it. Arrow and like any stable coin pair. So like if you have USDC and Arrow, any liquidity pool or liquidity pair that has a stable coin as one of the assets, is going to be stationary. That is not going to go up or down in price. So it's locked in. Now Arrow, on the other hand, is going to go up and down in price. So as it does that, and relative to the stable coin, so like as it's going up, it's selling off Arrow into USDC. So when it's equal, like when you first enter the pool and it's 50-50, in this case you have $2,000 that you've put in, $1,000 worth of Arrow and $1,000 worth of USDC. As Arrow goes up, you might only have 800 here, and now let's see, you have 1,200 there because it's selling off Arrow as the price goes up and putting it into USDC. If you go all the way up to where you're going to go out of the top of the range, say Arrow gets to $1.20 because my range that I set was $1.20 to 50 cents, then I'm going to be all out on Arrow. I'll have zero Arrow, and it'll be probably, I'm just going to make up 2,200 because you're going to get some price appreciation as this is moving up. So it's not going to be just the 2,000 that you put in, and it could be more than that. I'm just using this to demonstrate that you'll have more than you started with because of price appreciation, because it's selling it off. Like right
Mm-hmm.
here, if this is like 75 cents, when it gets to 76 cents, it's going to split arrow. 77 cents, it's going to sell a little bit. It's going to sell a little bit, through 80, 90, dollar, all the way up. So you're going to end up with more money than you started with, plus whatever yield you earned, on top of it. So you might end up, depending on how long you were in range and the APR and stuff, you might end up with $2,500. So now you have $2,500, but you're out of range. So you have to rebalance. So when you rebalance, it's going to sell half of this off, especially on Aerodrome. It's going to sell half of this off. So, as you're back into range, say now the bottom of the range, let's say, is going to be $1.20, and say, because the price is pumping. And now say I am going to make the top of my range $2. So now it's going to half this. So I'm going to have 12.50, and here I'll have 12.50 because I just entered this pool. So again, I got about $500 worth of price appreciation and yield before. So now it halved again. Now as arrow goes up, it's going to start selling off arrow into USDC. So you can see now where the loss comes in is if, like, say now it reverses course. Now say the price retraces after I rebalance, and arrow starts to go down in price. Again, USDC isn't going to move. Arrow's going down in price. It's going to start selling USDC now. And so maybe I only have 1,000 here, but I have $1,500 worth of arrow now. And if it gets to where it's at, goes out the bottom of the range, if I go below $1.20, then I'm at zero here, and I'll have $2,500 in USDC, and I'll be locked in there. Even if the price of arrow keeps dropping, price of arrow could go down to 50 cents. I'm still going to have $2,500 of USDC, because when I rebalanced, I locked in those profits because arrow was going up. But the inverse is true as well. If it drops below and I try to rebalance, then you're going to be locking in losses. So, whenever I go in to rebalance again, if, like, say this is let's do this real quick. You have arrow and let's say ETH. So this is where I see divergence loss. So let's start with our original figures, 1,000 and 1,000. And I'm not even going to get into the prices over here, so bear with me because it gets a little confusing. I don't do pairs like this. I only do pairs with stable coins because I don't like the divergence, the two assets moving independently. Because, as you know, ETH has been doing a lot of dumping, and arrow, like in this case, arrow, it's gone up to $2.20 and then down to 30 cents.
Dude, especially
So
meme coins. Don't
yeah.
do meme coin pools.
So basically, there's going to be some arbitrary number because, you can go by the price of arrow or the price of ETH, and the pool is going to be like this retarded fish frog baby of a price, between arrow and ETH. So
Mm-hmm.
I won't get into that. It's just going to confuse you and me. So say arrow starts pumping and ETH starts dumping. Then basically what's going to end up happening is you're going to start losing money because the assets are moving away from each other. So it's going to start, like, selling off, each of these, and you end up with less money than you started with. And then, of course, if they move together, if you entered the pool in the middle here and they both start moving together, then you get, price appreciation to where you're going to start, you'll have, instead of having $1,000 of arrow, you'll have $1,200 worth of arrow and $1,200, if they're moving equally, $1,200 worth of ETH.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they're both going up. But if they're both going down, you started out with 1,000. Maybe now you only have $800 of arrow, $800 of ETH. I mean, is this making sense?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
You definitely want, especially in the, if we're down and the market's already beaten down, I would trust getting into a pool like this more than when the markets are have been overheated and up.
yeah,
Just because if they both go down, you're going to get wrecked way more than if you just had a stable coin pair or stable coin and Arrow or stable coin ETH.
well, I know I've shown this before. So this is a correlations matrix, and all a correlation is like say like BTC and BNB. It has a decent correlation. It's green, zero point 0.8. A whole number of one is perfect, a perfect correlation. So like instead of a Bitcoin token here, if Bitcoin, if you had a Bitcoin pair, liquidity pair, it would be a perfect one because of course Bitcoin's going to move together. And so correlation means that they move, in sync. So say that BNB and Bitcoin, that would be a great correlation. They move up in price together, they move down in price together. So that's what you want to look for is if you're going to do those types of liquidity pools, is you want a high degree of correlation. Again, me personally, just to keep it simple, there's so many opportunities out there that I don't, and just as good as APRs with stablecoin based liquidity pools, where I don't even see, personally why to get in. And I'm still learning, but I don't see why you would want to get into, these dual volatile assets. I again like to just have one of them be a USDC, USDT, something like that, and then an asset that I believe in. Like Arrow, like Plume, like when if Ondo ever gets a decent pool, things like that. Just because it's easier to wrap my head around the price of a single asset moving up and down than two assets moving independently. Because the only way to really
Hmm.
track this is using Dex Screener. Um, Actually, it's
Yeah,
working
that's
now.
where you get kind of squirrely with the price ranges because it's not a normal fixed, $1.20, $2.
No, exactly. Like it might be like point, 10 zeros and an eight if it's a Bitcoin, if Bitcoin is one of the assets. Like if you're doing Arrow with Bitcoin, the price of Arrow is so much cheaper than Bitcoin that it's going to be a bunch of zeros, and you're going to wonder, okay, what's going to happen if it does this or that. Um, so there's really no reason to make this more confusing than it needs to be. So that's, like I said, that's kind of where I went with it. But this is what Chat GPT gave me. Um, because they basically say that impermanent loss and divergence loss are the same. Again, me personally, to make sense of it, I made impermanent loss where there's a stable coin is one of the assets, one of the pairs, or the assets in the pair. Divergence loss is the two volatile assets. And that's like, because they're diverging. It was how I was able
Mhm.
to wrap my head around this. So if it helps somebody out there, then awesome. Now, I asked it, can you mitigate divergence loss by entering a pool that includes a stablecoin? Like I was just talking about. Yes, you absolutely can reduce divergence loss by entering a pool that includes a stablecoin. Here's how it works in simple terms. So this is kind of what I just went over, but maybe this will help
Mm.
it sink in with some people. Stable coins like USDC, DAI, or USDT don't change in price. They stay around $1. So when you enter a pool like ETH USDC or BTC USDT, you're only exposed to the price movement of one token, not two. Compare this. Pool A is an ETH USDC pair. ETH moves up or down. USDC stays flat. Smaller price divergence. Again, I use impermanent loss or smaller impermanent loss. Pool B, ETH BTC. Both ETH and BTC can move. If they move in different directions, the divergence is greater, more impermanent loss. So I hope that makes sense. If
Yeah,
anybody has any questions, please put them in the chat now.
definitely more risky. So Ellie saying her arc block is pumping right now.
What is ARC block?
ABT USD. Yes. Damn. Nice. Oh, because they're, I guess,
Oh, just the token itself.
yeah, but on they have something going on tomorrow. They just announced on their Twitter this morning,
Oh,
May
that must be
4th,
why.
nothing will ever be the same.
So check this out. This is my Plume
Interesting.
USDC. So the gold bars was my narrow range, and you can see this is about when I was going to leave on this trip, and and Plume was starting to pump, and it was starting to beat its head against this line of resistance, and you can see that it's just been playing with this line of resistance, almost flipped it to support, but went back down below it. So
Mhm.
I didn't want to worry about it, continuing to pump. So I actually just took the liquidity out of the pool that I was using this range for, and you can see the aqua, bottom of the range for my wide range, and then you can see the
Mm.
25 cents way up here. So basically, like I said, me personally, I'm right now I'm sticking with lending. I'm sticking with staking because it doesn't, I'm going to get full price appreciation on those two. With wide, or full range liquidity pools, because again, I'm going to get the majority of the price appreciation and I'm going to earn yield. And then I have a
Mm.
couple. I have like one or two ranged pools that I'm using just to beef up my earnings each month. And it's a much smaller amount of my DeFi portfolio because what I'm building out now is I'm trying to build out a DeFi portfolio that is going to augment my income and improve my quality of life. I want to get to where I'm making an extra couple $1,000s a month that if I, want to, go out on a trip or I want to build a shop or, I want to, invest in real estate or a cool new DeFi project or a crypto project or something like that. That I just have expendable income that is free money that other people's money that they were paying me yield for swapping or borrowing or whatever. So I would rather do slow and steady and have that predictable monthly income then one month I make $10,000 and the next month I make $1,000. I would rather know that I'm going to make between $3,000 and $4,000 each month than have that volatility in my income. So, the probably about 80% I have in that stable, building that stable income, and then I play with 20%. With these range
Mm.
positions and things like that, and to get involved in new DeFi plays and whatnot just to learn to teach people here on the show and things like that. So that's
Yeah.
pretty much all I got. If nobody has
We
any
got one
questions.
last, well, not question, but statement. I really want to get into everything you guys get into, but yeah, the FOMO, there's a lot, uh, decision fatigue is
Yeah.
what they call it. There's so many shiny objects, and I had two Arrow pools, Arrow or ETH USDC pools on Aerodrome, and I got out of one of those and added it to my Plume pool because Plume was given a lot better APY than having for me to have two of the arrow or pools on aerodrome. So I
Yeah, don't get me started
you
on
know
ETH, dude. I still got
uh,
$3,100 sitting in my freaking out of
fuck,
range freaking ETH pool.
it's getting
I
close, right? It's getting close.
dude, it's I still got. I need to get to 20. ETH needs to get to $2,400.
Oh,
Well,
24.
and this
Fuck.
goes back to what I was talking about, where ETH. I was in this pool when ETH was like $4,000, and it went back out of the bottom of the range, and I rebalanced, locked in some losses because I started out with like 9 grand in this ETH pool, and then it went out the bottom again, and it went out the bottom again, and I
Mm-hmm.
stopped rebalancing. Like when I got down to about $3,000, I was like, I'm not locking in any more losses. I don't care what the yield is. I don't care what the APR is, because if I hold this, I've already done the math. If it goes back up to $4,000, I'm going to have about $7,000. So at that point, I only locked in about $2,000 worth of losses. But of course, I've earned way more than that in yield on this pool because I opened this pool when I first got into DeFi like 4 or 5 months ago. So I mean, I've earned probably like $5,000 or $6,000 off of this pool alone. Um,
Uh,
so even with it out of range for the past month and a half. So, I just want to get it back up to $7,000, and then I'm going to pull some of that, pull some of that liquidity. And depending on, what's performing at that time, if it's Plume, I might put some more in Plume, or, if I find another cool
mm.
pool that's going to, pay me some yield. But, for now, I'm not going to be as, I went a little too deep on the ETH, USDC because, well, it was earning like Plume was.
Yep.
'Cause, I mean, that was when, I mean, you remember when I was talking to you about it. I mean, I was like, I made $5,000 this month on DeFi,
Mm-hmm.
and I only had like, 12 grand in my DeFi. And, I made 5 grand in 1 month. I almost made 50%, return on investment in a month. And so I was, freaking on, cloud nine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, these are the things, that you have to look at and think about when you're in DeFi is, you know, you can't get emotional. Like I said, I started out with 9 grand. I've seen this go down as far as 2,500. I could have easily just locked in those losses, but I have 1.68 ETH that I'm basically hodling right now. And if ETH ends up like overnight skyrockets to 6 grand, I'll probably have like 10 or 11 grand in ETH. So
Mm-hmm.
um, it's just, you have to be comfortable. And that's why I'm always stressing, make sure that you're investing in assets you believe in. If you look at all my pools, they're Plume, Arrow, things like that I believe in long term. And the reason being is like ETH. I know ETH at some point. ETH is too big to fail right now. Until some of these other projects, get some legs up under them. Everything is an ETH layer two or on ETH mainnet. Uniswap, so much DeFi is on ETH that they can't afford to let ETH go down. And if you watch what
Mm-hmm.
big money's doing right now, is they're stacking ETH, and so it will happen. It's going to go back up, and that's why you need to have multiple pools. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Make sure that you have, because I'd be freaking out a lot more if I didn't have other pools that were earning me a bunch of money each month. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, because again, I know ETH will come back at some point, and I'll just be, as soon as it goes back, I'll just be making more money, than I'm making now. But
Yeah. Great tips.
like I said, I just want to make sure that I keep re-emphasizing. I know for those of you that come and listen every, on all of our shows, some of this is repetitive, but it's really important to keep driving this home because it's just it's easy to get caught up in the price movement, and if you're out of range and if you're not earning, and those sorts of things. And there's a lot to DeFi, and it's a lot to absorb and retain. And so, it's important that we keep reminding ourselves, of these, core principles of DeFi. Do you have any
Yeah.
closing
Well,
thoughts,
no,
Jeff?
just to kind of piggyback off that, spread your funds out into different pools that are, less risky, moderate, whatever your risk tolerance is. be sure to have multiple, and don't go all in on, if you got $1,000, spread it to a couple different pools, mitigate your risk.
Dual meme
Like,
coin
with
pools.
yeah. And some will earn you more than others. And, but that's okay. Cause you just don't know what one project will have that pump, and you're going to be fucking sitting good, as opposed to sitting on the sideline when you had
And,
all your eggs in one basket,
and
and
make sure you're peeling those profits off. And
yeah.
if you're playing in those meme pools and stuff like that, and they're on Uniswap where they're paying you out in that asset, make sure you're swapping it into USDC or a blue chip or something like that, so you're locking in those profits. Because if you're holding it in some obscure meme and that meme goes to zero, then all that yield goes to zero too.
Yep. Yeah.
So
Just be safe. And
that's all I got. I think I did my closing thoughts already.
yeah.
Well,
No,
we
we
appreciate
appreciate
y'all.
everyone. Let's see who we got. Black Ice, Sack Nasty, JLEDCA. Who else? Crypto G. Sorry, I think he might have jumped off,
Yeah, he
but
dropped off because he had a question, and I didn't. It didn't pop up in the chat. I was wanting to get to it, but I want to thank
damn.
everybody out there on Rumble. We have about 100 people watching live right now on X, Rumble, and on YouTube. Want to say thank you to all of you for showing up. Again,
Mm-hmm.
Mondays 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Saturdays 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I go live on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday after Blockchain Basement, and just solo. Jeff has his day job, so I just do solo and focus on DeFi. So I'm just going to be talking about the basics of DeFi, some DeFi strategies, borrowing, lending, flywheels, things like that. I'm actually going to be going to a advanced DeFi course potentially with another organization here soon, and so
Mm-hmm.
we're all in our own process of learning this stuff. So it's don't get discouraged. I mean, I'm still learning. I've only been doing this like 5 months, maybe, and so again, I know it seems like at times. I mean, sometimes it doesn't seem like it. I know what I'm talking about, but it's I'm making money. So
7, because November. It
yeah,
was November, so 7 months.
okay, 7 months.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I mean we're all learning, and the way that DeFi is moving, and real world assets, and this whole ecosystem, it's a constant learning experience. I mean, every time I turn around, there's a new protocol that does the yield earning differently, like Pendle. I'm still diving into Pendle about the YT and the PT and how all that works. And then I ran into another platform that automates this flywheel process for it. So
Mm-hmm.
don't get discouraged. Start
Yeah.
out small. Invest small, lose small. Start out with lending. Start out with full range liquidity positions. Staking, delegating, things like that. Low risk. Learn how wallets work. Learn how the protocols work. Learn how to deposit, withdraw, rebalance. All these different things. And just as you get more confident and comfortable, scale your investment. So with that,
Yes, yes.
thank you all. And until next time, Veteran Crypto out.
Later.